Everybody, Small Business Talk with Jerry. Here we are, episode 52 already. So yeah, we're getting up there. I'm Jerry, I'm the host. Today we have David Nelson with us, and we have April Pahl. April, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And she's our first time co-hosting.
Yeah. April Pahl with the April Pahl Agency and American Family Insurance, female-owned insurance company here in Southeast Rochester. And I am also a part of SBRG. I'm a co-host of Tuesdays 7 a.m. chapter.
David, tell us a little bit about you and Camp Victory, please.
I am also a member of SBR, and I am the executive director of Camp Victory Ministries. Camp Victory is a summer youth camp and retreat center about 20 minutes north of Rochester, Minnesota. Our mission is, as a Christian organization, Christian nonprofit, is to inspire people to trust and treasure Jesus Christ. And we do that through our programming that we do through our day camp programs. We work with kids 5 to 14 years old that can ride a bus from the Rochester community, where parents can drop them off at camp during the summer. And we also have a sleepover camp. So we have kids that can come and spend the night. We have everything from third grade all the way up through high school camp programs. And we have a 200-acre facility. We have a 1.5 miles of river frontage. We also do retreats. So we do in-house, what we call in-house retreats, and we also do rental retreats. So our groups will come in. We do youth programs in the fall. We have we've had parenting conferences, have done them before, ladies conferences. We have a family camp. We have a grandparent camp. So we do a variety of things like that. And then churches will rent the facilities and use the facilities for their own retreats. We provide food service. We provide activities. We have a big giant ropes course. We do laser tag. We have pedal carts. We have giant slip and slide, mountain boarding. We have in the wintertime, we operate all year round. So we'll have a winter tubing hill. To give you an idea of the size, Camp Victory will serve well into the 1,500 kids. In the summertime, we served 29,000 meals between Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Wow. And the kitchen is fantastic out there. I mean, we were just out there, well, it was a few months ago now, but this last winter for an event, and food was amazing. The facility is, every time I go out there, I forget how cool it is in between visits. I mean, it's such a neat facility. And you stole some of my thunder. I was going to ask you how many acres you have out there.
I was
But
going
it's
to
a
say that's a
200.
lot.
Yeah, because I know I haven't seen it all, but Heather used to rent out there once in a while. Or she'd have a group of quite a few gals. I don't know how many, 20 some that would come out for scrapbooking. And they would rent, and then they'd stay over for like 3-4 days, like a Thursday to Sunday or something like that, if I remember right how that went. But and the facility that they could scrapbook in, and then they had the little cabins, and it just so cool. I mean, just so cool.
And then devotional or whatever in the mornings and things like that. Yep, and then do scrapbooking. Yeah, we don't get any scrapbooking groups anymore. It's not as popular anymore.
Oh, okay.
We did some quilting and stuff
Heather,
like that.
he's just kidding. It's really popular.
Well, the computers kind of killed it a little bit.
It did. Yeah. A lot of the ladies went away from the hands-on to the print this, print that. You're absolutely right. And now, like, I mean, it bankrupted Creative Memories.
Right.
Yes. And now they're back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're back, but I believe someone bought them out and kind of restarted, but they restarted on a much smaller scale, and they're back now. But like I say, yeah, Heather's a whatever person.
I mean,
associate.
I've seen her space. She's definitely hands-on scrapbooker.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's an abundance.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure that, especially in the bankruptcy, I'm sure she had more than they did for a while. Yeah. Well, yesterday she had 3 ladies over. We have a tuck under garage that's carpeted and mini split in it, and it's set up it's got 4 workstations, so her and 3 friends they'll sit out there all weekend and scrapbook, and they enjoy it. They have fun with it. So
that's great.
Yeah, but I know they really enjoyed coming out to Camp Victory. But you're right. Those groups of 20 to 30 turned into groups of 7. Yeah. I mean, it changed a lot. Now, so how old is Camp Victory? How long has it been there?
Camp Victory started in 1943. So we're in our 80s, And we've not owned the present 200 acres for that length of
Sure.
time. So we were started by missionaries from the American Missionary Fellowship back in 1943. They used to do what was known then as backyard Bible clubs, and they would invite kids from different areas. And so we would rent, and then as we grew, or as they grew, we started renting other facilities, just like organizations would rent, or churches would rent
Sure.
facilities. And we've been in Mankato, we've been in various places. We landed at a camp that's actually our neighbor. Layman for Christ is a camp that is right next to us. They're not as busy now, that I don't hear them that much anymore, but we left them in 2000 and ended up looking for property. And this 200 acres became available. We were able to purchase this property. It just happened to be next to them.
So the 200 acres all came all at once. It wasn't a buildup.
It was all at one time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so then we were able to get all the volunteers that have been coming to camp, and parents have been sending kids to camp for years. And there's an association of people that participated, and we built camp from ground zero. So I came in 2000.
Everything that's out there.
Started it. Well, it was actually
2000.
and it was what do they call it? A farm that is a bale twine, held together, kind of thing, a really old farm.
Yep.
Very fine gentleman and wife that sold it to us, and all the volunteers came out and cleared the land and fixed it up, and that started in 2001. And I came 20 years ago in January of 2006.
That was my next question: is how long were you?
So I've been there
for
20
that?
years.
Wow.
Yep. And then we started building this. We started with 6 cabins and half a dining hall, and then grew from there. And now we have 288 beds. We're designed for multiple groups. We have multiple lodges.
In 26 years. That's 26. A lot of progress. That's amazing.
We have a big rec hall, dining hall that'll seat 350. And we just entered into a capital campaign to raise $3 million for a multi-purpose chapel building that will allow us to host larger groups. Okay. And we have quite a few facilities that we were designed to take smaller groups. So we can take groups of, like the Scrappers, 20 people. Yep. But we also can go up to 150, 175, 200. Our problem is right now that our meeting space for 200 is in the lower level of the dining hall, and it doesn't have big giant windows. It's not a cathedral ceiling. It's not the kind of thing.
Dining room is
upstairs.
Yeah, upstairs is amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yes. Oh.
And a lot of groups want to use the dining hall for their meeting space and their worship place. And so we've recognized that there's a tremendous need for us to be able to provide a facility where larger groups of 200, 250 can gather to worship and have their meeting times.
So will it be if you, I don't know if you have this planned out, but will it be an addition to what you already have, or will it be a separate building?
Completely separate building.
Complete.
It's all laid out with the county and
nearby that building
plan.
we were in.
So if you recall the property that you were on, you have the dining hall, and then up the hill a little bit, there's the cabin hill. Yep. We call it the cabin hill, and it's got all the lodges in the cabin, so it will be up there.
Oh, okay.
So it's all laid out for being up there.
Sure.
Yep.
And then even a better view. Right. Yeah.
And what's neat about Camp Victory is we have such a great group of volunteers, board of directors. We long range planning. We have looked into the future where we're going, because after the multi-purpose chapel building, we're going to build. We hope to be able to build a lodge that will sleep people in individual rooms. So kind of, I don't want to use the word motel, but it would be smaller rooms. You would have like 2 twin beds and a bunk bed. So family camps would be perfect for that. Yeah. Individuals, maybe 2-3 people instead of having a bunk cabin with 12 people in it or something. Yeah. So a little bit.
That's I used to tease Heather about that. Of course, this is me, but when she'd tell me about bunking with everyone, I'm like, I don't know if I like that many people that I'd want to. She just shake her head at me.
Well, when you think about Camp Victory's mission and our core values, community, evangelism, and discipleship, when you live together, I mean, if you lived in my house,
Yeah.
if you live with me, a week or two, you're going to get to know all my good and bad habits,
Right. Right.
and so we get to know each other. You build those relationships, and that's what it's all about. It's building relationships, getting to know one another, having an opportunity to talk about spiritual things and our faith and who God is, how much He loves us, and
Sure.
that's what camp is really all. That's what Camp Victory is all really about.
Well, I know Heather's nephew, I guess. I don't know how to say that exactly but Kui. I mean, he's been out there for how many years? And
I forgot that Kui was your.
Yeah, such a good kid. And but I mean, kid. I mean,
he's not a kid anymore.
Yeah, I can't really say that anymore. No, that's right. That's right.
He came for years. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Great man.
Great man. Yes. I think yes, absolutely.
So you had mentioned the board of directors. So how is that established, and like the volunteers and people? Do you have regular staff out there that work and take care of the property, or how does that work?
So Camp Victory is like any entrepreneurial small business, grows over time, and so we currently have, and I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sure if somebody's listening and goes, "Well, wait a minute, that's not right." But let's say we have about 12 to 14 full-time people.
Okay.
And that includes some full-time, part-time people.
Yep. Actual employees.
Yep.
Payroll employees.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have an internship program. Right now we have 4 interns. These are usually like a gap program between high school, college.
Sure.
Maybe college students who took a time off, or it might be, high school student trying to decide what they want to do. They're looking at potential ministry opportunities or whatever. Our internship program is specifically designed for jobs at a camp. So for instance, there's a retreat intern who works with the retreat director and learns the business side of hosting retreats and the hospitality side of.
So they're not, I mean, they're there to help you, but they're really there to prepare, you're there to prepare them.
Oh, very much
what's
so.
Next.
Yeah. So like, for instance, one of them might be a maintenance intern, and he's learning everything from how to drive a backhoe, how to drive the grade roads, how to do repair work. One of the guys at SBR was there. I'm sorry, what MGT or TTC or one
TCC Mechanical.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was mentioning in one of Shane, yes,
yep.
He was mentioning they came out to do some work, and the maintenance director said, "Here's the intern. He's going to work with you. He's going to learn everything. You guys talk." And the intern has to learn to interact with the sub.
Sure.
And how to work and how to solve the problem and what needs to be done, communicates what the problem is, how to work, so we're putting them right out there and giving them that opportunity.
Help you. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's fantastic.
It's part of the internship program.
Well, yeah, the whole, learn how to fish.
But now you asked me how many employees. Now in the summertime, we have seasonal employees that work for the summer. So the college students, high school kids, you have to be 16 or older to work at camp. We'll hire anywhere from 60 to 80 staff in the summertime. So we have Emery Moon is our recruiting and discipleship director, and she's kind of like one of the 2 camp directors. Sam Smith is our other camp director, runs day camp and overnight camp. They work together, but Emery's in charge of recruiting those 80 people. Everything from bus drivers to cooks to counselors, day camp counselors, overnight camp counselors.
So what did you do before 2006 when you were with Camp Victory?
I was with another camp down in Dallas, Texas. So I've been in camping. I had an intern ask me this question today during open house, and we figured it out. It was 43 years in camping. This is my 43rd year.
Why would you come to Minnesota if you were in Texas?
From Dallas.
Yeah, from Dallas. Like, this is, for those of us up here, I'm thinking, let's go the other way, Dave.
My daughter just moved down there. She's like, I'm leaving Minnesota.
Yeah,
I'm not coming back.
We have, one of our daughters too. She's in Arlington, and she was like, she misses her mom, but she's like, I'm gonna come home for a while, but not for long. These winters, she can't do it. She said, I love Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, let her run a camp in Texas when it's 102 degrees outside.
Okay,
100% humidity.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So, just like we have cold, and people in the wintertime are indoors more than outdoors, oftentimes. I try not to be. I think a lot of people try not to be. So But then you go down to Texas,
I suppose it's
it's
the other way around.
100 something degrees. You're going to be in the air conditioning.
Yeah, you're
So
inside.
everybody's got seasons, and
Yep.
And you only take so much clothes off.
Yeah.
Winter, you can put plenty on, but
Layer.
yeah, you can only take so much off.
We'll see what my daughter thinks after this. Coming up summer.
How big is hockey? And of course, I guess you have the Dallas Stars, but I mean,
Yeah.
is hockey?
Texas is a big sports hub. That area is a big sports hub for a lot of sports because they can go down there and.
We should mention who your daughter is, I guess, to make that question side. Because asking about your daughter in Texas, then bring up hockey doesn't really seem like it fits. But
so my daughter played youth hockey, and then she played on the boys side. She's a goalie, and then got into high school, played boys hockey through her junior year, and then senior year went to girls hockey, prepping herself because she played D1 at the University of Minnesota.
So she's a big deal. It's it's a very cool story. So that's what makes me think it's like going to Texas. So you've been in 43 years. That was kind of my next question again. But from the nonprofit side, especially because now obviously you're not just a nonprofit. The camp world for 43 years. So how has that changed? I mean, is there things that have gotten a lot easier over the years? Obviously, I'm sure some things have gotten either non-existent or have gone away or have gotten more difficult. But what's your take on kind of the business aspect of the nonprofit, over the last 43 years?
Well, now you're talking about two different things. Your question might be taken two different ways. One, you're asking me about things that have changed in the camping industry as an industry itself. And then you've also brought up the fact that Camp Victory or camping in many has changed from
the business side is what I'm what I'm kind of thinking more is like for our listeners that are small business owners or want to be small business owners, right? They're trying to make that decision and what to do. I mean, starting a nonprofit camp, that's a choice. That's definitely on the table.
Well, I would agree that there is no difference, or there is a lot of similarities between a person who wants to start their own small business. You and I were talking about this earlier before we started, but there are a lot of people that you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit to found or start a nonprofit. Absolutely. Because you're building this thing. But the big difference is you don't own the business.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a lot of people out there that get really confused about what is a nonprofit. What does nonprofit mean?
Absolutely. Fred Shirley had this conversation just the other day. He said, the great thing about being a pastor, and he rattled off a handful of things, and they talked about we were talking about property values because the property I'm sitting in just got sold here, a month ago. And we were talking about that, and he said, the great thing is being in control of all this and being able to see your vision happen, and having people get on board with you and grow something like you have, 200 acres 26 years ago, and the facility, the buildings, the structure that you have built and the reputation is amazing. And Fred's like, but he said the one downside, you don't own any of it. We just had that conversation.
That's what he was saying before we started that, once you're done and walk away from that, somebody has the opportunity to come in and
change the vision, move
completely.
What's the mission? And that's where, when you think about nonprofit work, some of the things that can be areas that you need to learn about, things like board management, fundraising, things like human resource, understanding exemption status, understanding accounting from a nonprofit perspective. And one of the things that I've recognized that a lot of people get confused is, what does nonprofit mean? It doesn't mean that Camp Victory doesn't make a profit.
Right.
I have to make a profit.
Right. I mean, you have to survive.
I have to pay the electric bill. I have to pay the employees. I have to pay everybody. I have to count depreciation for my buildings, because the reason for depreciation is to be able to save money so that I can fix the heating system and I can fix whatever that's worn out.
Right.
And replace it.
That depreciates.
And so
right.
A lot of nonprofits will say, well, I'm not going to count depreciation because it doesn't do me any tax benefit. I don't pay taxes. Well, the problem is then you're not counting for that depreciation later, and then you're in a real bind and you can't afford to. You're crying all
Right.
the time, and
Right.
people get tired of that.
Yeah.
So it's important to be able to make a profit and be able to pay things and then put money in savings and make sure it works. But it is also, you typically are trying to provide a service to organizations. So Camp Victory is, well, let me go back to the nonprofit. What does nonprofit mean? It basically means that no one person or group of people uh, benefit from the sale of the assets or has anything to take away. So all of my board members are volunteers.
Sure.
David Nelson, if you turn around and say Camp Victory goes bankrupt, let's say, as a nonprofit.
Yep.
We're not, but let's just
say, right. But as a nonprofit,
for case of argument, the nonprofit goes bankrupt. You sell the land, you sell whatever, and you pay off all your creditors. Any money that's left over, let's say there's $1 million left over or $10 million left over, who gets that money?
Right.
And the IRS requires a nonprofit to identify another nonprofit to give that money to.
Oh, okay.
So an example would be right across the river from Camp Victory was an 11-acre facility. It was a church, and that church closed down, and the church voted to donate all the assets to Camp Victory.
Oh.
So Camp Victory owned the parsonage, owned the church, and the 11 acres. So that became camp because they couldn't sell that church, and then the elders or the people in the church couldn't divide it to give to themselves. That's what nonprofit basically means. That's a
sure
simple explanation, but that's basically what it is. And a lot of people, so when you go in to start a nonprofit organization, you better keep that in the back of your mind that 20 years from now, David's going to retire. I don't get anything out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm serving. I'm giving back to the community. It's not mine to walk away with.
Right. So, but you mentioned that it was started in 1943, which that's World War II. Was happening. So that you're in charge now for the last. And did you come on as the director, or did you work your way up to that, or what?
So a little bit of clarity in that. We say we started in 1943. It was not incorporated until 2001.
Oh. Okay.
So prior to that, it was an American Missionary Fellowship individual missionary in this region.
Okay.
And AMF has been known for starting camps and using summer camp as a method to share the gospel of Jesus Christ and share how much God loves us. And the camp, when we for 25 years rented from the Woodland Camp, or the Layman for Christ, the Woodland Camp. When we left them, the then director or missionary was Jim Barnhart, and Jim is a local pastor.
Oh, okay. He's
retired now. Great guy. Served for years at camp. He and his wife Jan, and when they left the Woodland Camp, formed a group. There was an association of people that was running the camp, but then they got together, they formed a board, and they did what you have to do when you form a nonprofit or a corporation of any kind.
Sure.
Go through this regulations with the IRS and the state.
Get your bylaws.
Yep. And so they did all that. We're formed in 2001. So we officially, depending on how you say how are you?
Sure.
But
sure.
we really,
but it really started.
Our roots started in 1943. Mm-hmm.
So then, when you came on in 05 or 06?
06, January of 06.
Did you come on as the director?
I came on as the executive director. So when the property was purchased, in that transitional period, Jeff Urban, who was a pastor at Bear Creek Bible Church, worked with Jim Barnhart at the time and was on his leadership team. And Jim kind of took a step back as the director. Jeff became the executive director. Jim began to do fundraising to raise money to purchase the land, to start to build buildings.
Sure.
Jeff then began to build the buildings and start building. We started with 6 cabins and half a dining hall in 2006. And so they deserve a tremendous amount of credit working with all the volunteers and all, I mean, it took hundreds of people
I can't imagine
to
that
come together
facility.
and build and
Yeah.
redo this. And so, and then I came on as the new executive director into January of 2006.
Okay.
And we opened the camp at its current location on 200 acres in June of that year.
Okay. So I think this is a fair question. Just as you had said earlier, that like when you're done and retired, then who comes in? You don't. I mean, they may not follow your vision. They may. I mean, there's that.
Well, again,
potential.
that's you were asking. We were talking again
Yeah.
about
Yep.
what's the difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit that's owned by an entrepreneur, someone who owns that small business.
Right.
There's a lot of differences in that you have a board of directors.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the board of directors there are several different ways you can run it. Just like any business, you can have in some nonprofits, you have a director who runs everything.
Like a CEO.
I ask you to serve on the board. I ask you to serve on the board, and all of a sudden, I'm still the power and the decide. I make decisions. You come to a board meeting, and I tell you what I'm doing, and you go, "That's great." Oh, yeah. But really, I'm doing it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Then the other step is, and there's several things to talk about, but there's an operational board, there's a policy board, you have different format, you grow the organization, and at Camp Victory, the board hires the executive director. I hire the employees that work for me. The board does not go to my employees and tell them you're not doing this right. They come to me and say, "Hey, we got a problem. How can we fix this?"
How do we fix that?
They're an advisory group. I come to them and they help me make decisions, help me guide the organization. They're in charge of the they're fiduciary, I'm not saying that right, financially responsible. Yep. They're responsible for the mission of the organization. They're responsible for they're accountable to the state for the finances. Are we sound? Are we doing things correctly? Are we living up to what our exemption status?
I was going to say you have an obligation as a nonprofit
to do your exemption. So when we applied for who we were as an organization, we asked the IRS, we want to do this thing, the summer camp thing, and it's a Christian camp, and so we want this is our mission to inspire people to trust and treasure Jesus Christ. So therefore, the IRS says you have to be doing those things, those recreational things, and those retreat things. You have to be doing those things that are for this purpose. This is why we're giving you this exemption to pay taxes.
Yep.
You cannot do things outside of that exemption.
So, for instance, if you put up a quick trip, on the property, right, and or a small store, I mean, which you can have a store. Obviously, you've got to have your gift shop mentality.
Well, let's talk about that. So you and I were talking about this once before, and you brought this up. So Camp Victory has a camp store.
Yep.
The purpose of the camp store is to provide an opportunity for the children to buy snacks and ice cream and maybe some swag, get a hat, memorabilia things.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Toothbrushes are there. There's a couple other things that the kids can buy if they forget something or whatever, or a little teddy bear or something.
And they want to take a shirt home with them that says
I get it, and I have to declare, as long as I can prove that is for the benefit of the children, that it is not, I'm not making a profit for this, and it meets the exemption status. Okay, but the moment I do an online store, the moment I get that store becomes bigger and it's generating revenue that's unrelated to the exemption status.
Right. If I decide that, if you try to draw me in off of the street, that's not a camper. You just want to draw me in to sell me, like I said, put a quick trip up on property and try to sell the gas. It's like that does not check the right boxes.
And the IRS calls that unrelated earned income.
Oh, okay.
So it's unrelated to my exemption status.
Are you allowed any of that? A small percentage?
I don't have the specific facts.
Sure,
so this is David's years of hearing.
Yes, right. Fair enough. Yes. Well, we won't grade you on this.
So I'm told that you can do up to something like either 25 or 30% of your total gross revenue as unrelated earned income.
Okay.
So you have to pay tax on it.
Sure.
You have to declare it.
Sure, because
you
it's
have to
not
pay tax.
Yep.
Um,
Even as a nonprofit.
As a nonprofit. I was also told, and again, this is
Yep. No one take tax advice from Dave. That's not his thing.
But if you ever were to declare that you're doing 20-30% of unrelated earned income, I would guess that the IRS guy is going to show up at your door and start auditing
that's
you
going to trigger an audit.
Hey,
Pushing
you're way outside the envelope here. And the question would be, are you really doing 90% instead of 30%? Because you're only declaring 30.
Right.
So you have to make sure that when you're running a nonprofit organization that you stay within the exemption status that you were granted by the IRS.
Well, I've read many stories of, and I would never. I mean, obviously, I've known you for a lot of years. I trust you 100%. I would never say a bad word, but I see where some of these nonprofits, after years, they build a following, then they see the opportunity to leverage that following with for-profit businesses. I mean, no, I know that's not something that you guys do, but I mean that. So to your point, I think you're 100% right. You start pushing the envelope on the percentages, yeah, you're going to trigger an audit. I would almost guarantee it because it's happened so many times in the past where, I mean, a guy like me, you put me on a board of something like that, we've got to go over those rules. I mean, I will need to research and I need to understand those nonprofit rules because I'm going to look at 29,000 meals served between, Memorial Day and Labor Day, 1,500 kids just this summer. I'm like, there's opportunity here, folks. I mean, that's the first thing that pops in my head is, a way to positively leverage the parents that are driving on property to drop off the kids, all the things,
And I think that's where we get into the conversation we had before, where you're thinking of it in your world, doing business as a small business, where David is like, nope, nonprofit, we can't go down these roads.
Exactly.
Okay, so that brings up the whole issue of why do you have directors? Okay, so the board of directors' role, their responsibility is to make sure that we are within the guidelines of our bylaws and our articles of incorporation.
Yep.
Are we fulfilling the mission of the organization?
So they really, I mean, I don't mean this in a negative way, but they keep tabs on you as the executive director to make sure you're compliant.
Oh, absolutely.
Essentially, it's your job to be compliant. It's their job to make sure you are.
Right.
And
there's lots of ways to do it. There's different ways to do it.
Sure.
But Camp Victory, when I came on board, one of the camp was, the board of directors was more an operational board, very small camp, the operational board, meaning the board members made decisions. They chose the color of the t-shirt.
Sure.
Okay? I mean, they did everything. They showed up, they helped in the kitchen. They did everything. They were always there. At this point, Camp Victory's board of directors is a policy board. So their role, even though it was their same role back when they were an operational board, now their job is to show up, and there are multiple committees that bring non-board members, but also board members, a liaison to the board. So there's a finance committee, there's a long-range planning committee, there's a
must have a compliance
fundraising committee.
Guessing.
We have we call that the nominations committee. So it's a dual role. They nominate new board members, are responsible for that process, but also for the legal side of things, the compliance side.
Sure.
And there's 9 standing committees, and each one of those committees has a liaison to the board. A board member is required to serve on one of these committees. They can choose which one they want to serve on. Some of them serve on more than one.
Sure.
But we invite other people. We might invite you to come and sit on a particular committee. And, so like, for instance, the fundraising committee we do multiple events to raise money for scholarships for children to go to camp. So last year, I'm going to get the number maybe a little bit off, but we raised roughly $75,000 to send about 573 kids or something like that receive some form of scholarship assistance to go to camp. So we have the festival that's coming up on June 27th, big giant community festival. Businesses will be a sponsor. They'll help us raise money. We get about 1,000 to 1,500 community people to come out. It's a big giant day at camp with inflatables, and we open up the ropes course and do the zip line, and the climbing walls, and we have actually Buy RV Sell RV is looking at bringing in their hot air balloon this year.
Oh, nice.
Doing
Very cool.
not doing it like the ride up and down, just on a
Yep.
tether kind of thing.
Yep.
So we have a lot of businesses that are sponsors of that, and the money that we make from that event goes to scholarships. We also have a golf tournament. You played in the golf tournament.
Yep.
The golf tournament raises like $35,000-$40,000 for the scholarships for kids. And in those particular instances, it goes to a program called ULEAD, Urban Leadership Education Development Program, and we work with community partners. So Camp Victory doesn't know, we get a lot of people that ask for a scholarship, but we also we don't know all the people that might need a scholarship.
Sure.
But if you're another nonprofit that you are working with families, we come to you and say, hey, you got 5, 10 kids, whatever, we've got some money that we can provide for you. Now, we don't give you the cash, but we say, here's some scholarships that you can do.
Sure.
So we work with a variety of different organizations, like the Friendship Place and the county agencies and stuff, and they can send kids to camp. And those kids are where those kids come from. And those scholarships come from those special events. And those special events are run by volunteers. And so you might serve on the golf committee. You might serve on the festival committee. And then it answers back to the board, and the board is making sure that you are following the guidelines.
Sure.
Like I remember one year we had someone on the committee say, hey, how about a raffle? We'll get a car. I can get a car and we can raffle this off, and all of a sudden several, board member was, I don't think we can do that without licensing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Great idea.
That's where Jerry and I go, like, what can we do? Because we're constantly trying to generate income for our businesses, and it's a different mindset.
Well, it is. And we obviously, all three of us are part of SBR. So we understand the value of networking. Mm-hmm. Networking is, when I started SBR, I've said this many times, like I had way more energy 20 years ago, but I couldn't start SBR 20 years ago. I didn't have the network. I didn't have the reach that I have now. And when you look at any time you have an organization, the sheer size and volume of people that you touch with Camp Victory, and it's always, I've never heard anybody. Well, Camp Victory's been around longer than I have. I've never heard anybody come in and say anything negative about their experience with Camp Victory, their kids going to camp, anything they've done out there. Everything, and like I say, even my wife, we didn't send kids there, but she went and just did a scrapbooking thing. She just basically wanted an event center, is what she was looking for. And they come back, she's got food, and it's always so positive. And so when I see that as an entrepreneur, I'm like, that's gold. You have that captive, semi-captive audience, captive in the kids for sure. But when you have the kids as a captive audience, the parents are right there. Obviously, the kids don't do it without them. And so it's like, boy, you can leverage these folks in a good way, where they benefit, you benefit. But again, if I were at Camp Victory, I would need a full-time compliance, like on my shoulder. I need the white one and the black one going, oh, we should do this, or you shouldn't do that.
I put it this way: your mission is basically to make money.
Right.
That's not my mission. My mission is to inspire people to trust and treasure Jesus Christ. So our programs and what we do at this ministry is very different. That's our goal. It's not to make money. Our goal is to inspire people.
Right.
And so I think there's, if you were on the board, if you were a part of it, if you were on the staff, if you were the director, that would be your guiding purpose.
Sure. So, the room you're in. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The people you're with, the room you're in. Yeah, that whole mentality.
But at the same time, when you talk about, and I don't like the word leveraging, and I know a lot of people from that. Yeah. Only from the fact of, I would move away from it for a nonprofit. We call it friend raising. We don't call it fundraising.
Sure.
In some regards. It goes back to, why am I involved with SBR? It's because I want to build relationships.
Right.
I also want to do what you've talked about in regards to building trust, and building a relationship that is based on a long-term relationship or a long-term understanding of we do what we say we're doing.
Yes.
You can trust us. When someone gives us $1,000 to be used for scholarships, did it go to scholarships?
Right.
Yeah.
Or
And
did
I
it
think
buy
that
David Nelson a really nice desk for his
Yeah.
office? I mean,
Right,
and that's
right.
a good point, because there are a lot of things that I question donating to,
Mhm.
because where is it going? How is it being used? Because if I'm donating to help kids and campers, I want to know it's going there.
Right. Well, this
So
is
you
on
bring
a,
up a good point.
this is, I mean, and obviously, we're sitting here in the spring of 2026. The fraud allegations are running rampant on major levels. We're talking billions with a B, so it's not little things here and there. My own little slice of that, I own multiple businesses. I get approached daily, and that's no exaggeration. It's at least once a day I get approached for a donation for this or that. It's always something. There's always something going on. There's
well,
a lot
I'll
of
be sure
tragedy.
before we leave.
But I mean, it's always, and to your point, if David gets a nice new desk with money that was supposed to go over here, over there, um, that happens every day. I mean, I can't tell you how many times on just like the smallest of scales, people come into Broadway Car Care. We give them, 2 or 3 oil changes for this, family
Event.
an event, whatever it is. And there are people that I just absolutely don't even give the time of day to anymore, because the last and bless their soul, to know a good person from a not so good person, it's tough to tell, because if you're people that are attracted to these events and want to help with these events, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt until you don't. And what I mean by that is I can think of 3 people right off the top of my head over the years that you give them something, and then 6 weeks later they come back and they're cashing it in. And it's like, okay, well, you're part of the event. It's not hard to believe that you knew me, or you came to the shop, you got this gift certificate, so you like us, for whatever reason, there's a relationship of some sort there, even however deep or shallow it is, there's a relationship there. You're at the event, it was a silent auction or it was whatever. Well, it stands to reason you'd bid on it, because, but then when it happens like 2, 3, 4 times, it's like, okay, I don't want to be a jerk about it, but it's like, shouldn't someone else be getting this at some point besides you? And so then, and I don't want to, I'm not Columbo. I'm not going to dating myself with that reference, by the way, but I'm not going to go hounding the people running the event going, is this person really giving this to you guys? Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. I just, so it's like, no, I get approached enough. I'm just going to give to someone else, kind of thing.
But I think that's where I'm talking about friend raising
Right,
and
right.
networking
Know
and
who you're
building
giving it to.
relationships. And I think we're an example is Camp Victory is entering. I mentioned the capital campaign to build this multi-purpose chapel building. We do fundraising. We raise $200,000 and $250,000 a year to meet our costs, because though yes, we charge for a program, we charge for summer camp, we charge less than what it costs for a camper to go to camp.
Sure.
And so that money has to be made up in a different place. Now, my goal as an administrator is to run a facility in a camp program. Our goal is to generate 90% of our revenue from program expenses, program income.
Sure.
10% of that is from donations. And then if there's more than 10% from fundraising that goes to pay the electric bill or whatever, it would go to capital expenditures. So to replace things. And right now we're not there. It's a constant battle.
I bet.
So we're at about 23%. So when we raise money, when we're doing the capital campaign, it's all about the relationships that I have. If I come to Jerry and I say, and I don't really know each other, and I say, Jerry, would you be willing to sponsor this event that we have? You're going to maybe give me $100. Yeah, here's a gift certificate. Okay. But if we have a good relationship and you've been a part of camp, you've heard camp, there's some type of relationship there. Maybe you were a volunteer there, maybe you sent your kids there, and there's a relationship, then you know that we have sent you a thank you note. We've acknowledged things, we've talked to people, you've talked to people, you know that we're an honest organization,
Right.
that we're doing things right. I think what's going to happen is you come into some money. Maybe it's an inheritance, maybe it's a sale of a business, maybe it's whatever.
Right.
All of a sudden you say, I would like to do something good with this.
Yeah.
Or maybe you hear about another need that an organization like Camp Victory would need something, a new truck or whatever, a new multi-purpose chapel building.
Sure.
And you say, I would like to contribute to that, because you have that relationship. That's what friend raising is.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a big difference between transactional giving and transformational giving. I'm asking people to make an investment in other people, not in Camp Victory. I'm asking you to come on board and recognize that we're changing kids' lives.
Yeah.
I mean, there are kids that I know stories of kids that have come to camp from a scholarship standpoint, and the director of the scholarship of that organization I mentioned, you lead we work with different organizations. They were one of the friendship kids. They were driving home, and they asked, so what was your favorite part of the day? And the kid, they were given different answers, laser tag, whatever. One of the kids said, I ate 3 times a day.
Oh.
I had 3 meals every day for a week. And, that's the kind of thing that kind of giving makes a huge difference when someone realizes that people are making an impact in the kid's life. That, kids today are on phones constantly, and they're on screens constantly. And we all know, what that does to us all. I mean, how many of us are glued to this phone thing?
Yeah.
Well, at camp, we don't allow phones. Okay, so the kids they're outdoors. They're having adventures. They're
what
doing
they should
things.
be doing as kids.
They're building relationships. Our motto is faith, friends, and fun. So they're coming to camp. They're building relationships with other kids, having fun, making friends. They're doing adventurous things, and they're learning about a God who loves them so very much and wants a personal relationship with them. And so that's what Camp Victory is all about,
right.
And that's what people are investing in. They're not just making a transactional, or I'll buy that widget. No, they're investing in someone else's life, and they're investing to make a difference in our community, to make a difference in someone's life.
Right.
And I think that's a big difference between a for-profit business and a non-profit business. There's a reason behind it. And like you said, you have to trust those people,
right?
And it's the relationships. It's friend raising.
Yeah. But everything you said about the relationships, that transcends to so many. I mean, just everything in life. I mean, April and I've had this conversation so many times about even just our networking group. I when we sign up someone new, I was like, I try to be very transparent. I don't ever want. I mean, you and I were in a networking group, before together, before SBR existed. And when I approached you with it, there was no smoke and mirrors.
Right.
I was just like, okay, what we went through. I was in it for 20 years, and it's like, and it was a great organization, still is. I think they evolved into something. A few of their processes evolved into things that I didn't care for. For the most part, still a great organization. And I put up with that. And I thought, the few things I don't know how many things you can get into and love every aspect of it. I don't know if that exists. If it does, it's few and far between. So it's like, is it a bad thing? Not at all. But can we make it better? I think we can. But with that, when you have all this, you're cheerleading for this organization, whether it's Camp Victory as a nonprofit and something that's so great, it's a networking group, it's going to help the for-profit business, whatever it is you're doing. We tell folks, if you come to a meeting or two or you join, don't expect the floodgates to just open. This isn't the magic pill. You don't just show up and business walks in your door. You show up to meet Dave. You show up to meet April. And then you figure out that, wow, I didn't know Dave before this. Dave's a pretty cool guy. Let's go grab lunch. when we're done with this podcast, April brought her husband today, and we're going to go out for dinner tonight when we're done. And it's like, we weren't, I don't know how to say this and not sound like a jerk. I was going to say we weren't friends before us, but we were. But I mean, you started bringing your car to me, years ago.
Yep.
And it was a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
You didn't come see me unless something was broke.
Yep.
I mean that's who. But now we get into SBR, and it is more about the relationship. And now it's not just, well, this gal that sells insurance. I would never, if I'm talking about you with someone, that wouldn't come up. It's April, and you talk about it, and same thing. We talk about Camp Victory. It's never, I don't know if I've ever referred to you as the executive director. It's always like, Dave Nelson, and because we're friends. We talk. You build that relationship, and when people bring their car to me, I'm going to say everybody brings their car to me. Trust me, they don't know me, but they trust me enough to come. And so I don't know if I'm going to pitch the lesser of evils. I don't know if that's the lesser of two evils or not, but
but each time they come, you build that relationship and that trust.
That's where I was going with that. Is every time you come, you just show them that you are not just the lesser of two evils. We are good for you, and you do that by building a relationship. I can tell you I'm good for you. You can tell me you're a great insurance agent all day until we actually sit down and do it. And Camp Victory, same thing. You can talk about it all you want. Show me. And that's what, the two people sitting across from me, for everyone's, I've done business with both of them, and it really is, you show it. It's not just talk. And the cool thing, and of course, April are very new to, your insurance agency. Just opening up a few months ago with Dave. Camp Victory is a known entity. It's very well known in the area, and you don't have to talk about how great it is. People do it for you every day. And that's a huge testament. We're getting close to an hour here, so I'll give you a quick update on time. It gets away from you, doesn't it? It goes quick.
I think with that being said, though, like Camp Victory, people know of it or they know a lot about it, but there's so many people out there that still don't know.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
two, I think to your point, like building the friendships and the trust, and that's what we've done in SBRG too. Like, I wouldn't have taken over this agency if it wouldn't have been for my SBRG group and the support that they have given me, because I know that I have this group of 30 some people that have my back. Yeah. But it took building that trust and.
But you don't walk into the room and just get that.
No,
it takes effort. It takes time. Yeah, you got to earn it. It takes time.
Yeah.
And earn it. That's a great way, because you got to show people that you're going to do the same thing for them.
Well, I think we all in business, like there's shops out there that aren't so great, so people get a bad taste. Insurance, we all know, and same for some friends too. Like what?
I said, it's so exciting.
Yeah. I always tell people it's insurance. That's the most boring thing to have. But I make it.
What she says.
You could throw some pretty scary stories out there about insurance and
Yep. But same for nonprofit. Yeah. Like there are nonprofits out there that are not trustworthy.
Well, the news doesn't grab onto the Camp Victories of the world and tell you how awesome they are, how great they are very often. If you're doing an event, you might get a 12-second blurb on the news that we had a golf tournament, we raised X amount of money or whatever. But as soon as you have somebody dipping in the kitty or anything like that, those guys hit the news. And so again, the media, it's nice to be in the know, but not when it's so negative. That's the, and they don't. I guess I'm sure there's a study out there somewhere someone has done, but I would love to just see over the course of a week, a month, a year, out of the time that the news is broadcast, how much of it's positive versus how much of it's negative. I would really doubt it's 50-50. I would, right? Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, so when they're talking about nonprofits and they're talking about small business owners and they're talking about whatever, the vast majority of it is not positive. And even though that's not you still have to overcome it. And that's kind of what I was getting at early on when I said how things have changed, because the media didn't have this kind of pull 30, 40 years ago, 80 years ago. It didn't hurt. The news was there, but you didn't, if the news was 6 miles away from you, you didn't hear about it in the 40s. I would assume I wasn't here then, but I mean, it looked like I was here then, but but just how that changes things. I do have one question for you though that I want to ask, because you had brought this up early on about like the vision of a nonprofit. And when you look at something like Camp Victory, rooted back all the way to 1943, I mean, it's 83 years ago. That's a long time. The world was a completely different place. 200 acres gets purchased in 2000. You come on in 2006. A lot's happened in the last 20 years that you've been there. I mean, with the world, not just say a lot's happened with Camp Victory. Obviously, it's grown just huge. But do you know much about the history going back to 1943 of Camp Victory? Like, I was gonna say, I assumed you would. So do you feel that you're following the same vision that they did by today's standard? I mean, obviously the world's changed a ton, so you can't necessarily do what they did, but are you still, the goals the same?
The mission of the camp has not changed for 80 years.
Okay.
The mission of inspiring, encouraging people to understand the love of Jesus Christ has not changed.
That's where it started.
That's where it started. That's the whole purpose. John Logan started the whole thing, and Larson, and started the whole thing. It's why Jim did it for 25 years, ran camp out of his garage. I mean, he's a pastor.
And so you have the same vision that he did? I mean, you guys are in line.
Well, it's my responsibility,
right,
to work for a group of volunteers who came on board, and each year we get different board members. They have a term limit that they're required to do. They have to go off after the term is up, and they have to take a year off, and they can come back on afterwards if they're voted back on, kind of thing. When they elect to come on board and participate, their requirement, not only by the IRS, but also by our own bylaws and by our own desire to run a very solid nonprofit organization, is that the board analyzes themselves. They look at themselves. They look at where we're going as an organization. They set 5-year strategic goals, 3-year strategic goals, and say, are we doing what our mission is? Are we doing what our core values are?
But even to that point, I mean, to have a mission, and the mission hasn't changed in 83 years, but the vision on how to accomplish that's interpretive. And if that's what
that could be, I could see that. I could see that. But okay. So
but you guys have similar ideology.
Right. Sure. John Larson used backyard Bible clubs, which was a thing back in the early 1900s, because there's a lot of agriculture going on.
Sure. Right.
And so,
well, you can jump on a Zoom meeting and chat with someone halfway across the country or the world. I mean, back then
but kids were doing, it was a small thing,
right? But
then they started doing the camping thing in different locations. So we have a family, the Hallbacken family out of St. Charles, 4 generations, and Grandma was a counselor in 1943, or maybe it was 44.
Really, but right, I mean,
and
right there.
Her great grandson is coming back this year to be the program support team leader this year. We call it the PROS team, the program support team.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he'll be the director. He was almost a year over in the Philippines at another camp that he was working for, doing through the year, and he's come back and he's working for his dad on the farm right now, but he's going to come back and work with us. So
that's cool.
I mean, there are multi generations. We had an open house work day yesterday on Saturday, and we had about 70 people out coming and getting things cleaned up and ready for camp and stuff like that, cleaning and fixing stuff. I mean, all kinds of things, staining, painting, doing different things. And we were sitting around the lunch table, and I turned to somebody and said, they were talking about the fact that he's about to have a baby in July. And I said, future camper right there. And we were kidding about it. And then we all realized that'll be another 4th generation child. When that child turns, 5 years old and comes to day camp, that's 4th generation. So there is a history of camp of people in southeastern Minnesota and around who have been coming for years and know that mission, that vision of using recreation, camping, summer opportunities, and also using our facilities from a recreational standpoint, and a place to gather for churches has not changed. That has been the basis of, we're there to provide a church, a place for a women's group, a men's group, a youth group to come to experience, to have recreational activities and fun, adventure, to build relationships and to talk about who Jesus Christ is.
That's fantastic. That hasn't changed. I mean, over the years.
So you have the 200 acres. Do you see the camp, or is the vision for that camp to get bigger, or do you want to keep it at the size it's at? I mean, I know you're adding this. The goal is to add this hall for 200 plus people, but as far as like the camps go during the summer, do you see that getting larger over time, or?
I'm glad you asked that question. I don't know how much more time we have, but yes, I mean, Camp Victory, when we started and went to Wabasha County and said, this is what we would like to do with this 200 acres, there was some concerns. Are you really going to do what, there's
Right.
some trust that needed to happen before they were willing to say yes. They wanted a 50-year master plan. I mean, who plans 50 years out?
I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Right. So, but the vision at that time was 500 beds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they said at the time, 325, that's all we could have. We have since last year, or it may have been 2 years ago, I think it completed it, because it's a very long process, amended the conditional use permit, and they permitted us to go to 500 beds. So we now have the ability to go to 500 beds. Now, like I said, we have 288 right now. So the first step, as the Long Range Planning Committee, this group of people that sat down, studied it. How do we do this? How do we fulfill the mission? How do we do the vision for where we're going? And said the first step is a multi-purpose chapel building. We've turned 7, or we didn't turn anybody away. 7 groups in 2025 said, we are not coming to use Camp Victory because your meeting space does not meet our requirements.
Sure.
And those 7 groups were over 150, 175, 200, over 200, 250. And though I have 288 beds, that it represented over close to, it was $258,000 worth of gross revenue the camp would have received to help me meet that 90-10 thing.
Yep.
So right there is a reason. But we're also, as soon as we're getting, that's one step, multi-purpose chapel building. The next step is, I mentioned another lodge that has the individual sleeping capacity, which will allow us to do more family camps, more grandparent camp things, and do more retreat groups of different kinds, adult retreat groups, so that Jerry doesn't feel like he's with 14 other guys.
I appreciate you thinking of me.
So, but that's the vision, that's the long range planning that they're doing. So when you talk about that, that's something that this board is required to do. From a camp standpoint. We have those committees that are set up to analyze those things.
So with 200 acres already there, with the long-term plan, do you need more land, or will you be able to do
right
this?
Now we don't.
But I mean, with the long-term plan, does it fit in the 200 acres?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you don't have to, because I was going to say that's another. If a piece of land comes available, I mean that's almost something you have to budget for years before you even know if it's going to be available. I mean, the farmland around you could stay in families for generations, so it's not like you can count on, well, we can buy this in 5 years. I mean, unless someone has said something. So all of a sudden, it's like, do you put money away for that, thinking, okay, we want to get to 500 beds, but we need this 30 parcel or 30 acre parcel over here or something similar. That's something.
Well, and that's part of the planning, part of the board's responsibility. So we're looking at endowment opportunities.
Sure.
We're looking at planned giving. I have conversations with individuals about planned giving, about QCDs. I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that. No.
So the government allows you, if you're over 70 years old, to give up to $100,000 through your IRAs or your retirement programs, tax free.
Yep.
So if I pull money out of my IRA or whatever over 70 years old, I got to pay tax on that. Well, you can donate up to $100,000 a year to a nonprofit organization, tax exempt, and it's a deduction for you.
Sure.
And it's a benefit. So those are things that people can do from a planned giving standpoint, whether it's put us in the will,
Yep.
insurance, naming the camp in the insurance plan, as a beneficiary. There's a lot of planned giving things. All those things can be done so that people plan for the future. We have a scholarship endowment. It's not as big as I'd like.
Sure.
It's about $65,000. The interest off of that goes to a camper.
Okay.
And the goal of the person who started it wanted to raise $500,000 to sit in an investment to generate revenue so that the money can be used for kids to go to camp.
So
So you
that's
can do that kind of
I
thing.
was just going to ask that.
And so that's the kind of thing
that
that when you talk about planning for the future,
Sure.
that's what my board does. That's what my committees do. When I ask people to serve on the committee, they don't come and just sit there and listen to David.
Sure.
Oh, this is what we did this week. No, they meet every other month and they talk about all the different issues.
So I didn't realize that was so you could donate and say, I don't want this money spent on anything. I want it saved and put into an endowment that will grow and live, and then you guys can use the interest. You can use the increase in
Sure.
value.
There are so many ways and opportunities financially
That's
for
really
people to
interesting.
give tax exempt, tax free. A lot of people will create or donate to a donor advised fund. So the Rochester Area Foundation has donor advised funds. So if I sold a business and I made X number of dollars from my business, well, I'm going to pay tax on this, right? Well, I can put a huge amount of, I can put a large donation, a one-time donation into this donor advised fund through the Rochester Foundation or a different foundation or whatever.
Sure.
And I can give, once I give the money away, I no longer have control over the money.
Sure.
But the donor advised fund allows me to make suggestions to the foundation. I'd love to be able to support this group over here that does feeding the neighborhood kids, whatever.
Sure.
So, if you can give $5,000-$10,000 to them, or I would like,
So you're on a
somebody to
board
go
of a
to
sense.
this.
Yeah.
And so you can, now they don't have to do it,
Right.
but
Right.
They tend to do it because
Right.
they want other people to
And if
donate
it's a
money,
reasonable
because they get to
request.
use the interest off of that money too.
Sure. I was going to say if it's a reasonable request.
Right.
Yeah.
And it meets their mission and their goals
Yeah.
too. So
you're kind of a board member in a sense.
that's why they call it a donor advised fund. But
Yeah.
you're getting the tax deduction for that large gift
Yeah.
all at one time rather than over a series of time and paying tax on that. And so
Right.
forth and so on. So it gives you some opportunity to have a little bit of say in where your money goes. So there are a lot of tools like that are out there that Camp Victory or any nonprofit can use to do what you're suggesting in creating endowments or creating a fund to raise money for something they want to do in the future.
One of our first podcasts, I think it was our first podcast episode. I told Craig, I said, one of my favorite questions to small business owners is what your exit plan is. Because originally it was my favorite question because I wanted to know. I wanted to gather all the information I could, all the ideas, all the options for exit strategy so that I could come up with my own, years ago. And what I learned in a hurry was that, 95% of entrepreneurs, and that's a very technical statistic that I just made up on the spot, but when you ask them their exit strategy, they just give you this blank stare. The most intelligent people in your life, they literally give you a blank stare like, I guess I'll sell it. It's like, really? That you've invested your entire life building this business and your exit strategy is like, I guess I'll sell it? That's the best you can come up with? So it went from my favorite question because I really wanted to know to my favorite question because it makes incredibly intelligent people who are almost always extremely smarter than I am uncomfortable. that was my new reason it was my favorite. It's like it just but this is something that I bring up that whole story because this is something that I've really it's never come up as part of an exit strategy, and it should. It absolutely should. This is an option. This is something. Yeah. You said earlier, your mission is around people, right? And when I was talking, my mission is about being profitable. I mean, that's the point of being in business. We still want to help people. We don't want to take advantage of it. And when you want to keep your integrity, you have to be able to sleep at night. So you do it all the right way. But at the end of the day, we judge our success by how many people we've affected positively. And could you afford to make your house payment? I mean, could you afford to retire when the time came? Could you afford to exit? Whether you had a strategy or not,
Yeah.
could you afford to exit? And that's, well, like you said, your exit strategy is, well, I'm going to retire because I don't have to sell this. Someone else is going to step in, and hopefully they keep, they're going to have the same mission. Hopefully they have the same vision that I do, or better,
Well,
whatever the case is.
That's the board's responsibility. So
Right.
in a nonprofit organization, the board is the one to make sure that whoever they hire as the executive director stays on target,
Yep.
keeps on going in the direction they're supposed
Yep.
to go.
And like for me, when I talk exit strategy, I'm just going to, at some point, whatever my strategy is to exit, it ends in exit. I'm leaving. I'm done.
Mhm.
It's not, that
Well,
business is no longer
okay,
mine.
so from my perspective as a nonprofit, then I would turn around to you and say, are you planning for your future and what you want done with your money? You can write a will, but are you thinking about, okay, I want to take care of my family, I want to do this. You can take the time to say, you know what, I'd like to talk to insurance and say, I want to put that in, make somebody a beneficiary in case I go early, or I would like to do this with my money so that if 10% of it or 3% of it goes to this organization to support that, something that I believe in, and I would like that to happen.
Well, and you look at, there's so many people out there who either didn't have kids or, God forbid, kids went first. That happens, sadly. But all of a sudden then your spouse goes, or you didn't have one, but now you're by yourself. And you're going to leave your fortune, whatever it is, whatever you call a fortune, are you going to leave that to your third nephew? This is a place where if you can build the relationships with someone and you found a place that you fit in, and that you like their vision and their mission, both, because like I said, those are two different things. They really are.
And we do have people in that situation where they'll come in and they'll be like, I don't have any family left and I want it to go to my church or to whatever.
Yeah. So that's great information, because there's a lot of things we talked about today that I hadn't put the thought into. I just, it hadn't come up, so it wasn't something we were a part of.
And I think people thinking that, getting into the nonprofit because they want to do something good, there's way more that comes with that. It's not just, hey, I want to start this.
Well, they'll be good to me because I'm being good.
Yeah.
It'll be easy because no one's going to hard time me because I'm being good. I'm doing a good thing. It's like the IRS doesn't work that way. They just don't.
Well, and the difference would be too, it goes back to transactional giving or transformational giving.
Yeah.
People give because they have relationships. They have because they're friends and they want to support and they believe in what you're doing.
Well, and nonprofits, they're really no different in their world than you and I are in business. How many clients did you talk to on Friday? Out of those clients you talked to on Friday, how many of them, I don't know how many come in your office versus phone calls or emails, but the people that came in your office, how many insurance agents do you suppose each one of those drove by to get to you?
Yep.
They don't have to drive by them. They could have stopped. They could have went to them.
Yep.
Same thing as an auto shop. I know. I have to see my customers in person because we fix their car. I can't fix your car remotely. So with that, I know that virtually every customer of mine has to drive at least by someone else that could do what they're coming to me for. And same thing with a nonprofit. If I want to give money and feel good about it, there's a lot of choices out there. So I do think that it's just as important for you to build the relationships, because again, transactional. Well, if it's transactional, we can give to anything. There's a lot of worthy causes out there. There's a lot of good missions out there. So if it's transactional, pick one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not transactional, it's transformational. Well, then make that connection, and you've got that relationship. And that's something I've always been amazed at how do I say this? The reach David has when it comes to, I really believe in business, you think about this a lot. Well, if I'm going to go talk to this client, who do I send? am I the guy that can I mesh with that person? Can I build the relationship quick enough? I mean, because we're going to go have a meeting. This decision will be made within a day or maybe at that meeting. So like, can I build that relationship that quickly? Am I the right guy for that? You know?
Mm.
And when I look at David, I mean, I judge people all the time. It's how it is, right? Right, wrong, or otherwise. I can admit it. But when I look at people and you talk to them, one of the first things that steps into my mind is if I had to talk to someone, a laborer, a guy like myself is just, I drop the F bomb now and then. I'm not extremely classy. I work hard and I want to do right by people and I want people to do right by me and I want to have enough money to pay my bills. David can talk to me and we have no problems. Now, if I get into someone who's very well off, never really had to work very hard, they've had a lot of zeros behind, their bank balances, and it's a different class of human being than I'm used to. Can I send Dave in to talk to that person? I think he can, and that's a skill, and that's not a skill that you learn. That's just being a good person. That's who you are, and the ability to be able to go into any crowd and have a conversation and hold your integrity and be trustworthy and be genuine. And I've always admired that about him because that is not something everybody has.
And he has a passion for the mission.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's a big part of it is you believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're 100%. I mean, you can see that you're passionate about it, you're behind it. So who can't you talk to when you're doing the right thing and you believe in it? You can talk to anybody.
And I don't want to walk away from the fact that it's transformational giving, meaning I'm going to build a relationship with a person that if you tell me, hey, there's this guy that makes $10 billion,
right.
I want you to meet with him and maybe he'll give you money. I'm not going to just go knock on his door and say, will you give me money? That's just that's transactional giving.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I'm going to just find out what their interests are. Camp Victory may not even be in their interest area. And that would be very rude and inappropriate for me to.
But you're going to be able to figure that out. You're going to be able to have that conversation, right? But I mean, you're going to be able to have that conversation in a genuine manner and not be rude and not be transactional. I mean, like I say, I don't think it matters if you're talking to a guy that's making $12 an hour or he's just got some ridiculous.
You don't ask
salary.
to get married on the first date.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And but again, it sounds so simple when you say it like that. It's not. It's not that simple. I mean, it is, but most people don't have the capacity for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, they're going to fit in a certain crowd. They're going to knock it out of the park. And when they go over here, they're going to be awkward or uncomfortable. And it's mostly them, right? It's probably not the people they're talking to, but that is something that you have to put the right person in the right situation. And then sometimes you have that person that's just multifaceted. They can fit in any situation. And again, a big part of that is believing in what you do and how you do it. And I really admire you for that.
Well, thank you.
Very
smooth of you to say that.
I did want to bring up, you have some events coming up.
Yes. Let's
we do have some events. If anybody's interested, they're listening. We have the golf tournament. This is a scholarship event an event we raise money for scholarships for kids. It's on Friday, June 5th, and there are some team spots. It's a best ball tournament, and so there's. Last I heard, there were 6 open spots. We usually fill it out, so we're excited about that. We'll be golfing at Eastwood. Then there's the festival, the Zumber River Community Festival on Saturday, June 27th, and that's a big community event. It's a lot of fun. It ends with fireworks. The fireworks are a big, giant part of it, and so that's a lot of fun. But the inflatables and activities, you can buy carnival type food. There's all kinds of activities.
You can't go wrong with mini donuts and fireworks. You just,
Well, funnel cakes.
Funnel cakes. Funnel cakes.
Oh, even better.
Even better. Even better.
So as a small business owner for the festival, we know, as small businesses, there's golf tournaments that you can get involved in, but for the festival, what can small businesses do to get involved?
They could be a sponsor. I mean, so they're sponsoring the festival, helping us to raise money so the kids can go to camp. And they'd be a sponsor. You could be a $500 sponsor, a $1,000 sponsor. They're different. I can, give you the sheet that shows you get this if you do that. If you get this much money, you get to do this. So we put a banner up on the dining hall. Everybody sees their names on the website, their names on the program and the schedule that everybody gets when they come in the door, that kind of thing. So they're different ways of sponsoring Same thing with the golf tournament.
Sure. Yep.
So for anyone that's interested in getting involved, whether it be sponsor or play in the golf tournament, with
Or
the
send their
festival,
child to camp.
or send their
Mhm.
child to camp, anything that we've talked about here tonight, what's the best way to get a hold of Camp Victory?
CampVictory.com. CampVictory.com. Just go to the website. Everything's right there. Feel free there. You can also call the camp
Okay.
and talk to the camp. Phone numbers online.
Sure, it's all on the website.
It's all
Yep.
on the
Mhm.
website. You can call me and ask me. I mean,
Yeah.
so yep, we have a
Awesome.
great team. I mean, you talk about me doing this. It's not me, obviously, and hopefully everybody heard that
Yeah.
it's the board of directors, it's all the volunteers that serve on the committees, it's all the staff that do all the work and make it happen. It's a huge team effort.
So many places you call, you always get that one person that's just never seems to have a good day. You know, in all my interactions with Camp Victory, I've never had that person. You know, it's always been a good experience. Everyone is always, I mean, nobody's disgruntled. I just don't, I mean,
Wow,
well,
that's great.
that's a big, that's a big deal.
Appreciate that.
To not
We
have,
have a great staff.
yeah, you
Great
really do.
people.
And then even like Kui, talking with Kui about it over the years, and he just really looked forward to coming out there, really looked forward to being part of it. And he never came back with the, oh, there's this guy, oh, there's this, whatever. He'd come back and he'd just be like, and the closest thing he ever had to a bad story that I heard was just, when the kids' first day, they'll come in being nervous, and he said it's almost painful to watch because some of these kids they have a little anxiety or whatever about what's going on. But he said it never ends that way.
Right.
Right.
Within the first 10 minutes, an hour,
Yep.
the kids are making friends in their cabin groups.
Yep.
And our philosophy, and I know we need to end here.
Yeah.
I'll just say this at the end here. Our philosophy at camp in the summertime for parents who are making a decision, do I send my kid to camp or not? Our philosophy is we pour into the staff. We have a saying to our staff when we're hiring them, come disciple and be discipled. We pour into the staff. We have a whole system set up to encourage and train and help and help those staff grow, not only in their relationship to others, but in their relationship in their faith walk. And that overflows to the campers that are
I bet
coming.
it does.
Yeah. If your cup is full and overflowing, it goes out to other people. And so that's what we're spending our time doing. A lot of that is teaching and encouraging, and it just overflows to the campers.
That's awesome. Yep. Well, cool. Well, any last words, Dave? Any great words of wisdom for us?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about nonprofits and how they're very similar to an entrepreneur or small business.
Yeah.
How it can grow. There's all kinds of stages that everybody goes through.
Yep. So. A lot of parallels. April, how about you? Any last thoughts?
No, I'm happy to be here, and it was great learning more about Camp Victory and what we can do as small business owners to help support their mission.
And for me, I think it's very cool to know we have something like that.
Yeah.
This close, right in our own backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, that we can all be part of, whether it's camping, sending your kids in camping, or it's volunteering. There's so many opportunities to be involved, if I'm not mistaken. It sounds
absolutely. Like I said, we had a work day just yesterday. 70 people, something like that, show up.
So, I mean, even if you don't have a lot of money to donate, but you've got some time and a few skills, you put them to work.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
We have volunteers come out and mow lawns and all through the summer.
Yeah,
there are tons of, they help in the kitchen, they help camp store. They do all
mention they have
great
food. I'm telling you, it was really one of us here might be food driven.
On that
note, I'm looking for cooks.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you making time, and April for co-hosting, and Dave taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy guy, so this was great. We'll get this cut up into some short reels, and I'll get them out to you here in the next week or two. So that you've got something to do. Everybody, there's episode 52 in the books. Have a great night.